Good day, everyone. It's a beautiful morning here in Lagos. I want to welcome you to the special webinar of the Yaba Voice to commemorate the World Mental Health Day. Yaba Voice is the official online voice of the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos, that aims at providing quality mental health education to the public. And on this special webinar, we'll be joining the old world to discuss issues about mental health. And there is no better time than now to consider the issue of investment and access in the face of recent events that has ravaged our world. This year, we are looking at mental health for all, greater investment, greater access. And how we are streamlining it here in Yaba to the role of different professionals. To welcome us formally to this webinar is the Medical Director of Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos, and the Chief Host of Yaba Voice webinar, Dr. Oluyemi Cecilia Ogun. You're welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody from Nigeria, to our listeners and viewers from all over the world. Since the 1st of October 2020, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, through our official webinar, Yaba Voice, has been raising awareness on mental health through our social media handle in order to commemorate the World Mental Health Day of 10th October 2020. The World Mental Health Day provides an opportunity for all stakeholders of mental health to talk about their work, about their mental health issues, and what more needs to be done to make mental health care a reality for people worldwide. The World Mental Health Day, celebrated on 10th October every year, was officially established in 1992 by the World Federation of Mental Health, with different topics for each year. The topic for this year, mental health for all, greater investments, greater access, is drawing attention to the limited access to quality, affordable mental health care in the world before the pandemic, and particularly to humanitarian emergencies and conflict settings all over the world. Like in our country, Nigeria, just celebrated our 60th independence anniversary. How much access do our people have to mental health care, especially in conflict situations worsened by Boko Haram insurgency, banditry, kidnappings, and numerous internal displaced persons? Much of the little accessibility to mental health care in the country has been further diminished by the COVID-19 pandemic, as mental health care providers, caregivers, and patients were locked down or became inaccessible due to the pandemic. There are 8 federally owned stand-alone mental health institutions across the country, with all being sited at urban centers. Mental health care as a 9th component of primary health care has not been fully integrated, thus making the rural communities lack access. There is therefore a need for a massive scale up in investment in mental health in our country. Whether you are somebody who has had mental health issues, or you are a mental health professional, or you know somebody with mental health issues, let us all invest in mental health, because without mental health, there is no health. Our politicians, please, while you are building giant hospitals and employing professionals, have a rethink. Think mental health. Let our religious leaders arise and invest in mental health. Talk about mental health issues like rape, alcohol, substance abuse, depression, and suicide. And by so doing, you are investing in the mental wellness of your congregation. Today, at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, we are raising awareness on mental health by looking at the role of different professionals in the mental health team made up of the psychiatrist, mental health nurse, the clinical psychologist, social worker, and occupational therapist. How does each of these professionals relate with one another and the community to scale up investment in mental health? To do justice to this topic are professionals from our mental health team. Dr. Dapo Adegbaju is a consultant psychiatrist and the head of community psychiatry. He's a fellow of National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. Mrs. Ozioko, a deputy director of nursing and she is a fellow of West African Postgraduate College of Nursing. Mr. Akin Gabriel is a clinical psychologist of repute in the hospital. Mr. Gbenga Orina is a very hardworking social worker. And Mrs. Jumoke Oshin, an occupational therapist of repute. Ladies and gentlemen, please relax and listen to our professionals educate you on their roles while I hand you over to our moderator, Mrs. Kemi Akintoyeshi. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma, for that arousing welcome. Like the medical director had reiterated, we are looking at mental health for all. Greater investment, greater access. There is no better time to talk about this. In recent times, our world seems to have been turned upside down. Nothing seems to be normal again. But then we need to forge ahead. Quite a lot of things are happening. But how do we do that if there are no investment? Yes, to do justice to this topic this morning, we have Dr. Dapo Adegbaju, who will be sharing his thoughts with us on what mental health is, what are mental disorders, what are the signs and symptoms, and especially what are the roles of psychiatrists in mental health. Dr. Adegbaju, over to you.
Thank you, our esteemed moderator and medical director. Good morning to all our viewers all over the world. Well, I'm Dr. Dapo Adegbaju, and I'm here to speak to you about mental issues. Well, I would like to start with what is health itself. Health is a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease, of infirmity. Mental health, on the other hand, is a state in which an individual realizes his or her potentials, is able to cope with different stresses of life, and is able to work productively and contribute to the community at large. Now, what is mental illness? Or what are mental disorders? As I put it again, these are disorders that affect our mood, the way we think, and the way we behave. There are different types of mental disorders, and they can span from childhood to old age. And I'll mention just a few. This includes the childhood developmental disorders like autism, attention deficit hyperkinetic disorder, and learning disabilities. There's also mood disorders, anxiety and anxiety-related disorders, schizophrenia, substance abuse disorders, dementia, which affects our elderly people, which we usually see when they tend to forget things in their old age. Now, what are the clinical features of some of these mental disorders? I'll roll out the general ones that everybody would know about. These will include mood changes, poor sleep, poor concentration, withdrawal to self, odd behaviors that are not commensurate with the culture of the environment you are in. When people start hearing strange voices without other people hearing them, seeing strange people other people cannot see, and more or less becoming aggressive, which usually makes people bring them to the hospital. Now, what is the role of a psychiatrist in all this? The psychiatrist is supposed to look at the physical, examine the physical and mental condition of any individual that is brought to the hospital. He or she is supposed to make a concrete diagnosis. And after making the diagnosis, is supposed to institute treatment, which could be in form of medication or physical treatment at times. Or one of the aspects of physical treatment is electroconvulsive therapy. He, in addition, in collaboration with the other members of the health team, which include nurses, psychologists, social workers, they are supposed to institute a plan of management for the individual, because what could break the person down could not only be, it could be due to social issues or psychological issues too. So we need to work as a team. And one of the things is to look at how to make this person settle down quickly, which is usually with the aid of medication, and then how to plan for the long-term rehabilitation and reintegration of this individual into the society. Because everybody is expected to contribute his or her quota for the society, for this society to move on. It is also, the psychiatrist is also to provide lifestyle changes where possible to the individual. Despite all this work done by the psychiatrist, however, we found out that there's lack of professionals to deal with the mental health challenges in this country. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million. And in a study done in 2016, it is found out that 20 to 30% of the populace have mental health challenges. So we are talking about 40 to 60 million, which is actually in some countries, that's the whole population of that country. And as of today, we have just like 200 psychiatrists in this country. So if you calculate the ratio, we'll be talking about a ratio of 1 to about 600,000, which is very, very, the ratio is just not palatable. Moreover, the psychiatric hospitals are located at the major centers, the urban cities. And in the country now, we have 8 neuropsychiatric hospitals spread all over the 6 geopolitical zones, and in some federal medical centers where the Department of Psychiatry or Behavioral Sciences are opened. I would like to bring to the notice of everybody that mental health is the 9th component of the primary healthcare system of this country. But over time, it has been downgraded and is almost non-existent, almost at the primary healthcare level. And with the coming of COVID, it is high time the mental health is integrated back into the system so that people will have access, because majority of our people will still make use of the primary healthcare centers that is closest to them. And if mental health is absent at those centers, it will be a great disservice. COVID has brought a lot of challenges to us in this country. And like I always tell people, it is the mental health thing that will eventually be the last recipient, because by the time everybody loses their jobs or everything, people lose their source of livelihood, mental health challenges will set in. And if we don't invest in mental health, these people are bound to actually not be able to provide their own services or to contribute to the economic of this country. By that as it may, I would like to implore the government to invest more. Investing in mental health is not a waste. We need to invest more. Mental health challenges are becoming more and more rife in this country. We need a lot of integration at the primary healthcare level. We need training for the staffs so that they will be up to date with the mental health challenges, because majority of the people at the primary healthcare centers are usually more into giving birth, they are usually more into O&G, obstetric and gynecological things, forgetting that mental health is also a component. We need to scale up training. We need to cover the mental health gap in this country, because as at now, we are not covering the whole country, at least mental-wise. We need, and there should be more advocacy for mental health. Advocacy simply means we need to get the government to buy into pumping money into mental health care in this country. The mental health bill is also at the National Assembly. We pray that it passes through the different readings so that it becomes a law, so that we can move mental health forward in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adegbaju. He has told us what health is, and he has also told us what mental health is. And you know, when he was giving that definition, a thought was going through my mind, realizing potential, coping with stress, work productively, and then being able to contribute. And then we have some people who are deficient in these categories or in this list that he had. Then does that mean there's a problem? Let's just keep those thoughts rolling. Please, you can send your questions and your comments to the chat box. As we go on in this discussion, we will be able to attend to it as we move on. We'll be moving next to the next speaker, who is a Deputy Director of Nursing, Mrs. Ozioko, who will be sharing her thoughts with us on the cultural issues and stigma, and also the role of nurses in mental health. Over to you, ma'am.
Moderator and the medical director, Dr. Oluyemi Ogu, and good morning, our viewers all over the whole world. As the moderator has said, I'm here to speak out. Firstly, we all know that culture encompasses shared pattern of belief, feeling, and knowledge that guide people's conduct, and these are passed down from generation to generation. It also influences norms and values and how you view certain things or behave. But in the case of mental health, it can impact whether on what type of help you seek or what support you have around you. So it's important for us to understand the key role that culture plays culture in the treatment. Culture plays in the role of mental health. They are culture stigma. Every culture has a different way of looking at mental health. For many, there is a growing stigma around mental health, and mental challenges are considered as weakness and something to hide. Often made even to hide away from their infirmity. The local or cultural non-logical behavior. Cultural factors can also determine how much support one gets family and community in which he lives. Because of the existing stigma, the minorities are sometimes left to find mental health treatment and support alone. They can also influence how people describe and feel about their symptoms. It can affect whether someone chooses to recognize and talk about physical symptoms or only emotional symptoms. Also, lower social class, they normally display the highest amount of mental illness symptoms, but they tend to tolerate a wide range of behavior that deviate from social norms and are less likely to consider it indicative of mental illness. Sometimes the resources available in the community are also cultural and factor needs. In search of not spiritual help, seeking help from clinical and orthodox practice. People also of the same cultural or social group are less likely to label that individual behavior as mental illness. Sometimes they try to normalize the behavior by trying to find an explanation to the behavior. And so the greater the cultural distance from the mainstream of the society, the likelihood of negative response by the society to mental illness. Stigma and mental health. Mental disorder has generally evoked a negative social response, which is conceptualized as. We all know that stigma is a pervasive term dealing with the problems of lack of knowledge, attitude, and discrimination. Stigmatizing attitude towards people with mental disorder have been observed in different societies and groups, including families, co-workers, mental health providers, and students. Stigma may also be patients who may adopt self-stigmatizing behavior. This prejudice and discrimination leads to feeling of hopelessness and shame in those struggling to cope with their situation, creating a serious barrier to diagnosis and treatment. Stigma seriously affects the well-being of who experiences it. It affects them while they are on treatment, while they are recovering, or even when their mental health problem is a distant memory. Stigma profoundly changes how people feel about themselves and the way others see them. Stigmatizing and discrimination form a greater barrier to recovery and integration. Now coming to the role of the nurses in mental health. Nurses hold a trusted role in the society and can use that influence to change public perception about mental illness. Their unique position makes a positive impact and help public recognize the role. They carry out the education. Nurses themselves about that illness, thereby having the full knowledge of mental illness. They can pass on facts, good attitude and behavior to the people. They should also examine their own judgmental thinking, reinforced by upbringing and society, and they have to choose their words carefully. Educating others by passing positive facts. Also responsible to challenge the myth and stereotype. Nurse as a teacher and resource person. The nurse identifies learning need and provides information required by the client or family to improve health situation. they have a surrogate role to play, they have a supportive role to play. In all these, they have numerous functions and roles to play in regards to mental health. But even though they comprise the largest percentage of the health professional and provide the primary care services for the majority of all the healthcare system, including those that are most resource constrained, nursing care is paramount to the recovery of the patient. But remains dependent on limited number of professionals, especially health nurses. And there is acute shortage of mental health nurses due to undertraining of the professional in the field of psychiatry, coupled with brain drain as a result of migration for greener pasture. There is indeed growing need to invest on training and retraining of mental health nurses, boost employment in our hospital to meet increasing demands of the care. Failure of the government to invest in nursing workforce as a key cadre will undermine the healthcare coverage and result in poorer patient outcome and increased health system costs.
Thank you so much, Ma. She had told us about the cultural issues. We have issues about belief system in each continent, each part of the world is one major factor that affects people's disposition to mental health and how well they're able to access help. She also spoke about stigma, and that is one basic burn when it comes to seeking help, people seeking help. You don't want to come. You know, there's this popular name, they call this hospital Yaba Pausi. And people will tell you, I don't even want to look at the gate because yes, it's associated with something very terrible. But then we need to begin to invest more so that people can have access, basic understanding. And that's what she has told us. Nurses play a paramount role when it comes to informing the public. You see a nurse, you associate them with, yes, the right information, but there is a need to invest more. She had told us that. So we'll be moving on in this discussion today again, and then we'll be talking with one of the chief clinical psychologists in this hospital, Mr. Akin Gabriel, who will be talking to us on the psychological factors that are involved in mental illness, and then as well as the role of clinical psychologists in mental health. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Oluwakemi. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the World Mental Health Day celebration. Well, good mental health is when an individual can think clearly, solve problems that they face in life, and enjoy happy relationships and feel spiritually at ease. However, mental illness, on the other hand, there are conditions that affect our thinking, feeling, mood, and behavior. It may actually be occasional or long-lasting, and they can actually affect one's ability to relate to others and function on a daily basis. Psychologists believe that all individuals are born into the world with a clear slate of the minds. However, the various events of life, right from childhood, in form of positive and negative life experiences, can begin to write and influence their health in later adult life. More positive experiences could lead to a well-adjusted and mentally healthy person, while on the other hand, more negative early life experiences could form the foundation for mental illness. Some psychologists also believe that over-gratification or under-gratification at some critical periods during the psychosexual stage of development could also lead to fixation that may also eventually influence mental health of the individual. Similarly, the nature of the relationship between a mother and a child, whether it's adequate or inadequate, present or absent, might also form the origin of some mental illnesses. Some also believe that mental illness can be learned through some psychological learning processes. There are many more factors that are involved, but however, emotional, physical, and sexual abuses, especially from childhood, could set up reactions that might eventually lead to mental illnesses, which may include depression, bipolar affective disorder, and drug abuse. Some of these abuses may actually be part of the adverse life experiences that someone went through. For example, terrorist attacks, armed robbery, natural disasters that can eventually lead to displacement from home or broken home, rape, loss of job, even the pandemic, loss of a significant person, and neglect have also been associated with the development of mental illnesses. Now let's look at some of the roles of the clinical psychologist in mental illness. We are specially trained to assess, diagnose, and use psychological principles to treat mental illnesses. We're a member of the mental health professionals providing services to affected individuals. And we recognize that people differ from one another, especially in their ability to cope with life issues, and as many could be affected differently by the same challenging situation. Some of the roles that we play in mental health include assessment. We carry out quite a lot of psychological evaluation to determine the precise nature, type, and severity of the illness. The ultimate tool in clinical psychology assessment is the clinical interview, which is the platform to collect all relevant information that may be used as part of the evaluation. Usually, an individual will be exposed to a battery of tests made up of personality assessment, IQ, or some neuropsychological tests under a standard procedure. Central also to the role of the clinical psychologist is the use of treatment. After the results have been analyzed, the diagnosis form, a treatment plan is made, and treatment is made up primarily of psychotherapy, which is the application of psychological principles in the treatment of mental illness. The eventual diagnosis will inform the type of psychotherapy to be effected, and psychotherapy could be administered individually or within a group, including family or couple during sessions. Some specialized treatment protocols are also available for peculiar mental health, for some peculiar mental health issues, including drug abuse, the displaced and motherless, suicide and suicide prevention, abuse, the vulnerable people like children and the aged. It is important to note that some mental illnesses could require the use of medication that will have been prescribed by medical experts. Similarly, they may also need attention from other mental health professionals. With about a quarter of the population requiring some form of mental health services, there are only about 250 licensed clinical psychologists on the register of the National Association of Clinical Psychologists in Nigeria. That's a ratio of about 1 to 500,000. This is grossly inadequate and makes it difficult for the availability of experts for critical needs at some points. Most licensed clinical psychologists work at mental health specialist centers in urban areas, academic institutions, and there's a growing pool of clinical psychologists in private practice. Training takes from about 6 to 10 years, and more experts are required to reduce crack. The Nigerian Psychological Association Bill, which will regularize the profession, is currently awaiting presidential approval. In summary, anyone out there with one form of mental illness or mental health issue or the other, your psychologist is a trusted friend, a confidant, and a professional partner waiting to work with you to overcome this present distress occasioned by the mental illness, to also help you to discover your psychological resources, to overcome life challenges, to help you to build resilience, achieve life goals, and flourish in good health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akin Gabriel. He concluded with this wonderful thing that I love, and that is that they are a trusted friend who are willing to help you go through the various challenges that you might be going through, and also to build resilience. But then, worrying enough is the fact that we have just one clinical psychologist to about 500,000. That's grossly inadequate, and that's part of what we're looking at today, to begin to invest more in this sector so that people can have greater access to more trusted friends that would help them to build resilience and also to do well. We would also be moving on in this discussion, and then we'll be talking with a social worker, the psychiatric social worker, who will be talking to us on how to create a socially enhancing environment and also the role of social worker in mental health. Over to you, Mr. Gbenga Orina.
And good morning, the viewers. I'm Mr. Gbenga Orina, a social worker with Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, and I'll be presenting the role of social workers in mental health, particularly now that we are commemorating the World Mental Health Day. It has been established that there is a direct relationship between mental health and social adversities and mental health. The concern of social work profession in mental health is to improve the social well-being of individuals, family groups, and the society at large. Social workers also assess, help to prevent, and resolve the impact of psychosocial problems on mental health of the populace. Identified social factors that might affect mental health: high level of poverty, unemployment in the country, divorce, banditry and Boko Haram menace, accommodation problem, domestic violence, stigmatization, and substance abuse. Biopsychosocial approach. This gives us insight into the biological, psychological, and the social background of individuals to arrive at social diagnosis. Social workers' role in mental health. Social worker helps and supports in alleviating the suffering of the people in the society by helping the victim of socio-economic crises such as poverty, unemployment, marital conflict to access resources. Racial and ethnic problems. Victims of racial abuse may have mental difficulties. Hence, social workers help to fight the racial abuse, injustice and social inequalities on the victim. Ethnic conflict may result in people losing their lives, properties, socio-economic status, homes, and etc. Social workers help the victim to resolve their basic needs with conflict management skills. Kidnapping and terrorism globally has resulted into emotional distress, poverty, illegal migration, human child trafficking, and loss of lives. Social workers work on internally displaced person, IDP camp, to provide reassurance and counseling, emotional and building support network for them. Social workers are concerned with the well-being of individuals, families, and societies, creating awareness, educating members of the public, the vulnerable people, and their relatives on what they need to know about mental health. Sensitizing them on how to maintain a good mental health by avoiding certain lifestyles, such as substance abuse, adhering with prescribed medications to improve their well-being. Avoiding stress that can lead to mental health challenge. Social workers are the intermediary between the hospital and the outside world. We go extra mile to source for information which aid diagnosis, treatment, and continuous management of individuals' mental health issues. Social workers are the advocate for the right of patients, draw the needed social support from members of the public, influencing the right of these vulnerable within the family, group, and community to enhance or improve their continuous functioning and quality of life. Psychoeducation. Social workers provide psychoeducation to patients and their families on compliance with hospital appointments, adherence to medication, understanding and accepting the patient, and joining community support groups. Soliciting support networks for vulnerable patients from good spirited Nigerians, philanthropists, non-governmental organizations, religious bodies who gives funds and support to help indigents that have no family or financial ability for medications and their management. Social workers provide motivational interview to individuals who are having problems with psychoactive substance. Motivational interview is done to help them resolve their ambivalence on the use of psychoactive substance. It has also helped to develop discrepancies between the current behavior and their future goals. Reintegration. Social workers also saddle responsibility of reuniting patients with their family, particularly those that have lost contact with their relatives, having wandered away as a result of illness, e.g., abandoned patients in the hospital, rehabilitation after discharge, and the follow-up appointment. All my recommendations: creating more awareness about mental health through community outreach, social media, television stations, radio stations, and daily newspapers. More social workers are needed in the country to help in creating socially enhancing environment, as we currently have only 800 social workers compared to over 200 million Nigerian population. There is need to be more proactive in advocacy and enlightenment for vulnerable individuals, such as avoidance of self-medication during pregnancy, use of illicit drugs, and embracing a moderate lifestyle. All acts must be on deck to ensure actualization of 21st century mental health act that will be all inclusive. Influencing legislation to achieve good government policies that will affect mental health positively. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benga Orina, for that enlightening discussion that you have given us on the role of social workers in mental health. Not just that they are just there, but then to reintegrate, to help people back. You know, there was something that you said that was striking, and that's the fact that oftentimes even people who had just walked away, family members doesn't know where they are, they can also be of help to get them back. But then it closed with the fact that there is a need for more. And what we're looking at is there is a vacuum that needs to be filled. All right, so we'll be moving on quickly in this discussion, and then we'll be going to the occupational therapy need in mental health. And so we'll be looking at reintegrating patients back to the society, what are the challenges, as well as the role of occupational therapists in management. Mrs. Jumoke Oshin, who is an occupational therapist, is here to do justice to that. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the medical director and everybody listening. It's World Mental Health Celebration, and I am looking at the occupational therapy role in the management of clients diagnosed with mental health condition, and how then we can then integrate them back into the society. I'd like to start by saying that human beings are occupational beings. Everyone yearns to function. Without functioning, without living, without our day-to-day activities, there are issues. And so, occupational therapy look at how human beings, how clients diagnosed with mental health conditions live back and then live a successful life back into the society. Occupational therapy has an assessment used to assess clients diagnosed with mental health condition. And there's the umbrella of what people know us to be. In a way to a bit understand how human beings function. I like to take our mind back to when some few months ago, before I go into details, some few months ago, we were asked to stay at home. Everybody sit at home because of a pandemic in the society. And you understand that after a few days, people, some of us that live in part of Lagos, Nigeria, there was a report that some people were found on the bridge doing exercise in group and the rest of it. And so what does that tell us? Human beings have the yearn to function. They yearn to interact with people in the society. And so what the mental health condition does to us is prevents people to live their normal day-to-day activities. And so the impact of mental health challenges on health is such that it affects activities of daily living. What do I mean by that? I woke up this morning to take my bath, eat my food, come to work, mobility, going in and out every day, and several other items under activities of daily living. Mental health condition impact on that functioning, and that's what warrants occupational therapy intervention in this kind of clients. Mental health condition affects leisure. For children, for adults it's leisure, and for children it's play. People with mental health condition have issues going to their day-to-day activities, in performing their leisure activities. There's not even enough yearn to stand up and wake up and watch TV or go to the cinemas or do what makes them happy. Things that pleasurize them before the illness are no longer in their life. And so there's this impact in leisure, and for children, play. Mental health conditions affect work and productivity. Clients diagnosed with this condition cannot go to work and function. Even when they find themselves at work, they are not performing to their level of functionality as they were before the illness. And so another way mental health condition impacts on living is in terms of education. Some of our clients are diagnosed while they were in school or even before they get to school. And so the components of functioning in terms of attention, cognitive skills, and every other skills required to function is no longer there with mental health condition. Another way mental health condition impacts on our functioning is sleep. And so all these are the way human beings are expected to function. Day-to-day living, waking up, sleep, wake up, take our bath, and do everything required to function. Mental health conditions saddles our clients with responsibility not to function. And so the role of occupational therapy in all this is to bring back functioning, is to enhance functioning in clients living with this condition. And so what do? There are several therapy that we use, varying from habit training. We facilitate communication, good communication skills in clients diagnosed with this condition, improve interpersonal and social functioning skills, develop or reintegrate them back into the society by bringing about vocational skills and training where necessary, and several other things that people living with this condition does not have. We bring about functioning. Life is about functioning, and if we cannot carry out our day-to-day activities, is what occupational therapy look into. I like to emphasize that the occupational therapy took their roots took their treatment program from the roots of psychiatry. Okay, human being are functional being, and if one is able to structure life, then life goes back into normal. So what mental health day is talking about, how do we then have access to this treatment? How does our clients have access into occupational therapy treatment? Where there are several issues regarding this. There's this burden of mental health care on part of caregivers that they don't even bring their clients into the facility. The implication of the burden of care is that there are no money to even come and pay in the hospital for hospital bills, and even now pay for therapy treatment. Economic and social factors are responsible. Availability of mental health care professionals. The ratio of occupational therapy available to take care of clients is not enough. Presently, we have very few occupational therapists in the country managing clients. And so there are certain issues around this condition. There are, how many mental health care systems do we have to the ratio of them now employing occupational therapy to work in those facilities? So there are issues regarding accessibility and how patients are accessing occupational therapy treatments. So other factors that are responsible for people not accessing treatment is the awareness and knowledge of occupational therapy among even the healthcare professionals. A study was done, and it was seen that professionals know, they have the knowledge of occupational therapy, but the core duties that they do, it's an issue. So tonight, the implication of this is making referral is not an issue. Proper referral is not being made. Lesser training centers for occupational therapy is also an issue. And so even people that are now trained are not even now employed. How many of us are employed in this country? Statistics even shows that not even many that are even finished school, despite the fact that there are no many training centers, are not even employed. And so how do we then invest into occupational therapy? There is need for awareness. There is need for people to know about OT. There's need for education and training. There's need for government and institutions to employ more occupational therapy working in the facility so as to help clients function back into the society, give them what they need to function, etc. So integrating occupational therapy into management is important, and we cannot overemphasize the role of occupational therapy treatment in the lives of patients with mental health condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jumo-Kelshin, for that arousing discourse that you had. It's bringing to the fore that there is hope for people who have mental health disorder, mental health issues, mental illness. So all is not lost. You know, she said something very vital. The life is about functioning. And so if we're able to get these people back to functioning, then that means we can get them back into the society and then they can live well. And that is the core of what occupational therapy is all about. And that's a beautiful thing. Dr. Adegbaju, there was something that I raised earlier when you started this discussion, and that's the fact that when you were giving the discussion of the definition of mental health, you talked about realizing potential, cope with stress, work productively, and then being able to contribute. But then we know in this current dispensation, with the pandemic has ravaged so much things in our world, people are not even able to get to work, even when they want to work. And so the immediacy of realizing potential is reduced, or maybe they're not even able to cope and deal with life situations. Are we going to say they have mental health issues, or maybe they're just going through a patch? I need you to just clarify that so that people can have basic understanding about that before we move on in this discussion. There are other top questions for you too.
Hello. Okay. As we all know, the pandemic has affected the lives of so many people in this country, and it has led to loss of jobs, loss of economic powers of many people in the country. These are bound to bring out social issues, especially we all know that some people are the breadwinners of their family, and you can imagine if the breadwinner of the family loses his ways of having money in their pockets. I mean, it's going to lead to a lot of frustrations, and a lot of mental challenges will come to the fore. It has led to a state of domestic violence in some cases, because when the head of the family loses his source of livelihood, it is going to impact not only on himself, but on the family as a whole. So all these things will lead to mental issues. And if we look at the definition of mental health itself, you see, the ability to realize your potentials and also cope with stress of daily living and also work productively, they are all encompassed in that definition. So you can imagine that once those things are not there, the person is not medically fit or mentally fit.
Thank you, sir. So before I let you go, why is the ratio of psychiatrists in Nigeria so low? Somebody is asking that question. And then what can we do about that? I don't know. Can you provide an insight into that, sir?
Well, thank you. I think why the ratio is very low is because the people are not being absorbed, or people are not being employed into the health system. There are several fellows of the National and Postgraduate Medical College and West African colleges of physicians that are waiting to be employed. There are so many out there. So that's why I've said it in my speech that we need to invest in people, get them employed so that they can provide these services to the people that actually need it. We're talking of about 40 to 60 million Nigerians needing mental health services. And also some of these medical professionals that are being produced are being shipped. Employ these people to provide these services. And like I also said, it is not the psychiatrist alone. It is supposed to be the primary healthcare system in this country. Have access. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Adegbaju. If you had followed in this discussion, he had been able to, and everyone had also been able to reiterate the need for every professional to be on board, and then also the need for the government to invest in. And then he also said earlier on that, yes, it's not even just at the federal level, there should be this level of professionals too, also at the primary healthcare level, where people often go to access help too. So when we have them at the primary healthcare level, it simplifies things and then it makes access even more available for people. And that is part of what we are reiterating with this webinar this morning. All right. I don't know who I'm going to direct this particular question to, but it's like someone is asking that she has a 6-year-old girl who has been diagnosed with autism, but then there is limited fund. What can this person do? Can you ask the medical director to just help us do? Is there anything that we can do for this individual? The daughter was diagnosed with autism last year, and then there is limited fund at this person's disposal. What can be done to help this individual?
Thank you, Mrs. Akitoyeshi. But for the person whose child was diagnosed with autism, we have a center, one of the best in the country, actually, Child and Adolescent Psychiatrics Center at our Oshodi Annex. I will implore the parent to bring this child to the place. And knowing fully well that diagnosis of autism is a medical thing, but the child will definitely need other things like the occupational therapist, the physiotherapist, the speech therapist, and educational therapist, which we have at Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Yaba at affordable price. So please, the parents should bring that child to our center at Oshodi Annex. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you got that information about Idara Basi, that you can access help at the Child and Adolescent Unit of the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, which is located at Oshodi. There are core professionals there who will be able to help you. Even when there is limited fund, I'm sure that something can be worked up to help you to move on with your life. This comment about mental health and psychiatry, no, what we are showcasing here in Yaba and this morning, and I think it's the world standard, is a fact that every professional needs to be on board to ensure that people get adequate help. And that is what Yaba is known for, and that is what we are talking about. Every core professional has a role to play. It's not about a single professional, it's all about every one of us. And that's why the topic today is mental health for all, greater investment, greater access, the role of different professionals, everyone coming on board, doing their role and playing the part to ensure that we give the right treatment to our patients or everyone who come. And that's what we're talking about today. All right, so for the people who had appreciated, we love that comment, thank you. Yes, to the social worker about indigent patients, Dr. Owoye, thank you for responding to that. That yes, the social worker are there to source for resources to help them. And then quite a lot of our patients too, 10 to 20%, which is huge, also propers. And then there are resources available. We have the Alano Fund here, other NGOs are coming in. And then we are still soliciting for more investment in this area so that people can also access help. Mr. Gabriel, I wanted to just talk on this. We need to address the issue of stigmatization of patients. Yes, I know that the nurse spoke about it earlier on, but I want you to just talk about how can we reduce this issue of stigma in this part of the world. When somebody talks about mental, you don't even have to, if it's like mental awareness, mental disorder, mental support. The next thing is, you know, you're just labeled. Mr. Gabriel, how can we address this, please? Okay, can we unmute Dr. Adigbaju if he's not coming on? We can't hear him, technical issue, we're sorry about that. Please kindly unmute Dr. Adigbaju, let him address that question quickly. How can we address the issue of... Okay, he's back, all right.
Thank you very much, Oluwakemi. Definitely, well, stigmatization, what we require is basic education. And what we are doing is actually part of it to provide information for everybody. As we have seen from some of the statistics, we've seen that about a quarter of most population will have one form of mental illness or the other. And there are several types of mental illness, quite a lot of several types of mental illness. even the person that's maybe is stigmatizing or maybe referring to another person or behaving in a certain manner towards somebody could have one form of mental illness or the other. So information, education is key and very, very important. We're talking about stigmatization, but let's also remember that there's also that issue of self-stigma, which is very, very important, that our patients or people who have one form of mental illness to actually also watch out for the issue of self-stigma. We should not put ourselves down. We should not, just disregard or maybe put ourselves down because of the mental illness. We should seek help. We should try and bring out the best in us and move forward. So education is the most important thing for stigmatization.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for that. He had been able to say education, and then as much as possible, let's try and normalize it. The moment we do an hush things, it's threaded in darkness, and then quite a lot of people will not be able to come out. Let's talk about it. People who have mental health issues should be given free atmosphere to be able to talk about their challenges. And that normalizes the conversation for quite a lot of people to also come up and assess help. Then, Dr. Adegbaju, people who have, yes, they have mental, they may not come out to tell you that they have mental illness, but you see some of these abnormal disorders that you talked about earlier on manifesting in their life, but then they had refused to come for treatment. How can we convince them to come for treatment?
Thank you, Ms. Akintoyeshi. The thing is, just like Mr. Akin Gabriel said, a lot of education needs to be given to our people. And mind you, education is a two-way thing. I think we need to invest more in getting messages across to our people, maybe in the local languages they will understand, so that it will lead to a lot of them, because at times they feel that we are talking above their heads with our big grammar and big diagnosis. They should be able to feel comfortable to come to the hospital. And another thing is that we need to start changing the narrative, especially with our cultural backgrounds and the way we were brought up. And we can only do this by making sure we do a lot of advocacy, sensitization, maybe by doing radio jingles, by going on radio and TV to educate the populace that mental illness is not a cause or because of a sin. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody, including the person talking. So there's this thing that some people are programmed to have mental illness. Mental illness is not irrespective of anybody, race, or religion. If you see anybody with having symptoms of a mental challenge, the person should be brought to the hospital as fast as possible before the person becomes chronic and becomes more difficult to treat. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Adegbaju, for that. And so when people have mental health challenges, please let's not see them as being bad. Let's not see them as being they are not better or they cannot do well again. Let's not sack them because of that. That's the more reasons why people will not come out, because yes, people are afraid they will get sacked, their source of income will be denied, and other things like that. I want to quickly ask Mrs. Oshi, when you were talking earlier, you said you are able to, when you're able to structure the life of an individual, then they're able to function. Life goes back to normal. But what about some people who, yes, they can't go back to normal functioning again? Is there hope for them? What can they do? How can we help them when functioning becomes difficult despite everything that had been done?
Thank you very much. Occupational therapy looked at the fact that some people will not be able to go back to their normal functioning. And so when that happens, what do we do? The essence is that there are so many things in place for people that cannot actually function the way they were functioning before the illness. And one of those things we do in this center, in Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Yaba, is that there's what we call the sheltered workshop. We bring clients. Clients are on day patients. They come Monday to Fridays. They come to work Monday to Friday. They get paid with token economy at the end of the month. And sheltered workshop is monitoring them the way they now do their activities. In the process of them coming to do one thing or the other, we improve on those skills that are making them not to function. And then they begin to function gradually. And most times we get to even discharge some of them after a year of day patients in the hospital. So, and apart from shelter workshop, there are so many things we do to also improve on skills, but they come daily, Monday to Friday, and we still make them function. So when people are unable to function, even going back to what they were doing, there are alternatives. There are things we do. Reintegration in terms of vocational assessment, and then now do what they can do within their limits. So there are always things to do with clients. Thank you.
Okay, please, almost the MD, I want her to talk about this briefly. It said, looking at the level of corruption in our society and in government, where someone in position gets the money meant for a community or the needy and divert it for personal use, is that not a problem of mental health of that person? Medical Director Ma, is that a mental health problem, Ma? And how can we help this individual?
Well, thank you, Kemi. When one diverts funds meant for community, and you see so many people like hiding money inside a soak away pit, like another one, somebody bought a land and discovered that while they were trying to renovate the home, they found useless millions of naira. This is avarice. And avarice is, what do you call it? People tend to argue about it, but avarice could be a mental health problem. You take more than you need. For example, look at that person who died after taking money. The person, we were told from what we read, that the family, because they don't even have money to live on, they want to go back to the village. And that was what made them to sell, to sell that land. So the money became useless to the man, he died, and even to the family. How wicked can the world be? So the avarice is definitely a mental problem, even though it's not something that is in the recognized mental health diagnosis, but it is a symptom, and it's a symptom of mental disorder. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. The medical director have addressed that. And then another person for a question from Pastor Emmanuel is, how can we now integrate checking the mental health of the person? I think it's a part of what we're looking at now. She had talked about, yes, there are disorders, there are protocols, there are procedures to be put in place, there are policies that need to be put in place to be able to ensure that, yes, people who get into this high position are actually assessed well, to be sure that, yes, they can do what we have asked them to do. About the question about how can we integrate mental health into, Dr. Adubaju had earlier addressed that, and about policies, government should get on board and begin to implement some of those things in the primary healthcare sectors, so that people can have adequate access to all of those things. Yes, ma'am, there's another one. I don't know. I don't want us to make this webinar more about the politicians and their hoarding habits. We need to be very careful about that. What we are selling here in Yaba Voice today is the need that everybody needs to come on board to ensure that there is a greater investment. It's not about the government alone. What can you do? Can you be a voice in your locality? Can you be a voice in your church? Can you be a voice in your neighborhood? Can you be a shoulder to lean on? Can you create a referral pathway for people to come and access help? Can you give them the cash? Can you give them the support that they need? A lot of people are doing that without necessarily waiting for the government to be able to bring people. We have quite a lot of people who are brought here by quite different people. They don't even know them. They bring them because they see them on the street, and then they're able to access the help that they need for them, and then they're able to reintegrate them back to society. So it's not just about the government alone. We are looking at every one of us. What happened in the last few months with the pandemic has shown us that we need to come on board. Everyone needs to come together to push for mental health. And so when you are your brother's keeper, when I'm my brother's keeper, when I have information and I pass and I support, then everybody would be the best that they can be. Dennis, your is that there are many inmates in the custodial centers that have mental-related problems. Is there any collaboration between? Yes, they bring them to this setting. I know that we have a forensic team also that goes to the prison to see, and then sometimes when they have prisoners, they bring them to this hospital, and then we assess, and then help is given in whatever way that they need. So like I said, please let's be the shoulder, let's be the voice. What we are pushing in Yaba Voice is that we want to provide quality mental health information or education to the general public, and that's why we are blowing it so much on the social media platform that people can access help. Mental health, yes, might be something that seems huge, but then we're trying to normalize it. We're changing the narrative. We're allowing people to have access to help. We're allowing people to talk about their distress. We're allowing people to talk about the challenges. And so they can come and walk into the psychiatric hospital, talk with a professional, let them help you see what, or deal with whatever issues that you have. And then you will be able to push through. The social worker are there to help reintegrate people back to the society. The nurses are there to provide information that are necessary for people to be able to access help. The psychologist said, yes, they are your friend, and then they want to be able to help you to be able to push through. The medical doctors are there to diagnose, to help you put on in life. So everybody is working together. The OT is saying function is the most important thing. And we need to be able to, the medical director has joined our voice and said, we have all the personnel that we need. Yes, even though we need more, but we have core professionals that are here to be able to help you. And that's what we are selling. That's what we're talking about today. Greater investment, greater access, everyone, everywhere. And then we can all push this. And so quickly, we would be able to go to all those professionals again to give us a closing remark in 1 minute. What's your take on all that we have talked about today? I will start with Dr. Adegbaju. In 1 minute, please give us a summary, a closing remark on this discourse today.
Thank you, Mrs. Akito. Well, in my closing remarks, mental health, mental issues, mental challenges, essentially is not a respecter of anybody, race, religion. Once you see any sign that recognizes somebody is not behaving the way and culturally that is acceptable, please and please bring this person to the hospital. The earlier, the better. Don't go shopping around. Please bring the person. We have all the professionals that the person would likely need to get back on his or her feet and become a productive member of this great nation again. Nobody is useless in this country. Let us make everybody to contribute their own quota to the economy of this country. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Adegbaju. Mrs. Ozioko, what's your closing remark on this discussion this morning?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Moderator. What I'm saying in conclusion is that we all know that they say that without mental health, there is no health. And all hands must be on deck. We must not leave the burden on the government alone, both the individual, the community, and both the state and national level. All hands must be on deck to achieve this. No one is free from this illness. Anybody can be a victim at any point in time. So we try to increase the awareness, the education, and challenge the myths and the stereotype regarding this mental health so that together we can achieve a good mental health for all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. King Gabriel, what's your closing thoughts on this topic this morning?
Thank you very much, Kemi. Well, my closing remarks will be that no matter how long you might have been having some distress, no matter how bad you think things have been, help is always available. Yaba left works. You should come in and then you have talk with us. It's going to be okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Jumakelshi, what's your closing thoughts?
At this juncture, we'd like to say, come with what is left. If you have difficulty functioning, come to Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba. There's always something to do. There's always something to work on. Don't ever forget, human beings are functional beings, and everybody must function. So please come. We'll be glad to attend to you. Thank you very much.
I love that. That's so remarkable. Come with what is left. It doesn't matter. They will work with it. That's good. Thank you, Jumoke. All right, Mr. Benga, what's your closing thought?
Thank you very much. Now that we are commemorating World Mental Health Day, it's a privilege for social workers to contribute their quota to the mental health of the people. And that's why we stand for advocacy. We stand for creating more awareness. And like somebody asked, question relating to how can social workers come to the aid of indigent patients. I want to use this opportunity to thank those good-spirited Nigerians that have been helping us to provide funds in helping these poor patients. So it is not about government alone. We need more people to help, this indigent patient. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Benga. The need for collaborative efforts. Yes, if you have more, please help us out. And then finally, we're going to go to the medical director. Ma, your closing remark, your closing thoughts on this.
Thank you, everybody, for celebrating the World Mental Health Week and Day with us. I'd like all hands to be on deck. Whoever you are, whether you have suffered from mental disorders, whether you know somebody that is having mental disorder, or you are just a normal member of the public, please, all hands must be on deck. Whether you are a teacher, whether you are a parent, whether you are a politician, please think mental health. Let's invest in mental health. And for so many of us here, for people that think that Yaba left, okay, they don't want to mix with people. We have categories of treatment places. We have the general one, and we have what we call amenity for those who want to have private treatment. We have private wards, we have general wards. And for children, because many people do think that mental disorders afflict only adults. We have children and adolescent section, especially at our Oshodi Annex. Please, all hands must be on deck. And in thinking about collaboration, we want to collaborate with as many NGOs, and we have been doing that as many as possible. And we want you people, good people of Nigeria, philanthropists, to invest in mental health. Many companies are coming to Nigeria, to Yaba, and they are collaborating with us. They are scaling up the experience. They are scaling up the investment. They are helping us. For example, 2 companies have just rehabilitated our patients dining hall. And we have people, philanthropists that are building in this, they are investing in mental health. And that doesn't necessarily mean they have mental health challenges, but they are good Nigerians. So for you people out there, I want you to join us as much as possible to scale up investment in mental health. And I like to, you know yourself, Mama Osamefi, I see you. God bless you, ma. I think we have answered your question. Thank you very much, ma.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who had joined this webinar this morning. We are so grateful for taking your time to be part of this. We quite appreciate you so much. Yes, for everyone who had given a positive comment and feedback, thank you. We will still like comments and feedback, so you could send it to our Twitter, our Instagram, or our Facebook page. We want to hear from you. If we had imparted in any way, yes, we want to hear feedback. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have things that you want us to look into again, we would also appreciate the feedback from you. So please send to any of our platforms on the Instagram, the Twitter, or the Facebook page that we're there, and then the numbers are also displayed on the chat box, so you could also give us a call. We'll be ready to receive a call from you and then to listen to your complaints or to listen to whatever it is that you have to say. We'll be hoping by God's grace in the next couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, that we'll be looking at the issue of you and your mental health, because it's still the mental health week, and mental health is also something very paramount. There is no better time to keep hammering on mental health than now, especially with all that is going on in our world. No better time to invest, no better time to communicate, no better time to talk about it. Please, let's be a shoulder, let's communicate with people, let's let them on board in And if you know you can't handle, please refer to us. We'll be willing to talk to them about it. And then please also like, share, make comments on our pages, invite people to be part of what we are doing. We would appreciate all that. You don't know, you might be saving somebody's life. You might be helping somebody to get out of the problem. Remember, there is no health without mental health. Mental health is paramount, so let's invest in it so that we can live healthy and we can be better person until we come away again next time. Please stay safe, stay blessed. I am Oluwakemi Akintoye. Bye-bye.